Hello, this is David Getoff, board-certified traditional naturopath and board-certified clinical nutritionist. And this video is going to be a little different from most of the others I've done. This is a product video. This is a product that I've been using variations of for, I guess, probably 15 years, and which I love to death, and that is soft tissue or low-level lasers and red light LED therapy. It's a spectrum of light from about 620 or 630 up to about 660 or 680 nanometers, which is the red light spectrum. They're usually called either low-level lasers, soft tissue lasers, unfocused lasers, because it's not a focused laser beam, it's a softer. And the first time I ever learned about these, yeah, actually it was the first time, was when a retired dentist, Dr. Larry Lydell, had started a new company called Lasers Incorporated. And he was building a low-level laser, soft tissue laser. And I met him at a conference where he was selling them. He was in the exhibit hall selling the units. And the unit was called the Q1000. Actually, the first one he had was not called the Q1000. The later models were called Q1000s. And actually, let me go get one. Okay, so this is a Q1000. Let's make a close-up of it here. This is a Q1000 laser. If I turn it on, it comes on. If I set the mode to come on one of the types, then it starts actually pulsing and going on, doing what it's doing. All right, so we'll turn that back off again. But again, this is the Q1000. And I used these for many years. When I met him, this video is going to be a little bit longer than it could be, but I want to go over this information. When I met Dr. Lydell at this conference, it was interesting because he was standing at his booth with a bunch of lasers on display. And medical doctors were walking past his booth as they were coming back from lunch and spending some time in the exhibit hall before they had to go into the lecture hall. And it was a medical conference that I was also attending. If I remember correctly, I think it was an ACAM conference, ACAM, that's the American College for Advancement in Medicine. But I could be wrong, it might have been a different medical conference. Again, it was like 15 years ago or so, might even have been 20 years ago. And these doctors were coming in, and their name tags were on, and it said so-and-so, and first and last name, MD, medical doctor, and it usually had the state that they were from. And they were walking by, and they were just waving at Dr. Lydell, who was finishing up his sandwich for lunch, and saying, "Thank you very much, Dr. Lydell. My shoulder is much, much better." And then the next doctor would walk by and say, "Oh, Dr. Lydell, thank you very much for that treatment. My elbow is the pain is way reduced." And somebody else would come by and say, "Dr. Lydell, thank you very much for treating my wrist earlier today or yesterday. Made a huge difference." And 5 or 6 of them came in saying this, and I was a little perturbed. I couldn't figure out what was going on. Finally, when this gentleman that I hadn't met yet, who I later met and found out his name was Larry Lydell, when he finished his sandwich, I said, "Let me see if I can understand what I've just been seeing going on here." These doctors that have been coming in from lunch, and I finished my lunch a little early, so I was there a little bit sooner than they were. I'm assuming that these devices that you have a bunch of out there, they all look the same, but there are a number of them there, that you treated a pain they had, either earlier today or yesterday. The conference had been going on for a day already. And he said, yeah, he said, sometimes it was a range of motion injury they had, or it was a pain, or it was something that had been hurt. And yeah, I treated it with my low-level lasers here. I said, and they were busy thanking you because the pain was either much better or gone. The range of motion in the injured area without it hurting was either much better or totally normal, and they were thanking you for having helped them. And Dr. Lydell said, "Yeah, that's exactly true." And I said, "Well, I'm a little surprised here. How come none of them stopped to buy one of your units, which I now want you to tell me all about?" He said, "Well, this is a medical conference." And that's what happens to me with the physicians. And I said, "I don't understand." And I remember him saying, "Well," he said, "if I was at a chiropractic conference, probably many of them would have asked me more questions, found out the price, and bought them. And if I was at a conference of, let's say, physical therapists, some of them might possibly have bought them. Naturopaths or other things, some of them might possibly have bought them. He said, medical doctors, we have a problem with many of them. Not all of them, but many of them. And that is that they don't want to bring something into their practice which is going to hurt their income. And I said, and how is this going to hurt their income? He said, well, if somebody has a problem, let's say they hurt their shoulder, and it gets x-rayed or it gets scanned, CT, MRI, whatever, and they see some stuff going on in there, they will generally, or very often, send that person to a physical therapist for anywhere between 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks for the physical therapist, for the PT to work on it and see if they can make it much, much better. And if the PT is in their clinic and they're billing for it, that's making them a bunch of money. I go, well, yeah, if somebody goes to 6 weeks of PT, obviously that's going to be billed to them or the insurance company for a bunch of money. He said, yeah, but if I just treated them for 8 or 10 or 12 minutes or 16 minutes and got as much benefit or more benefit than they would have gotten from weeks and weeks of PT, that hurts their pocketbook. So if somebody realizes from the therapy that I did on them, you know, wherever it may have been, that they might be able to heal somebody in 20 minutes that would otherwise be 6 or 8 or 10 billable sessions with a physical therapist, they don't want it. They're very happy that I helped them, but they don't want it. Maybe they'll buy one for themselves or for their family, but they don't want to use it in their clinic. It's going to hurt their pocketbook. Whereas a lot of other people, chiropractors, whatever, seem to be more open. They'll buy them and they will use them in their practice because the person's coming in for chiropractic adjustment, and if they can charge an extra $30, you know, for a low-level laser treatment, and the person very often sees a difference, they're very, very happy, and they're not going to be sending somebody to somebody else like a physical therapist. They are the therapist. I said, oh, that's interesting. Give me more information. And he talked to me about it. He showed me a couple of books that had been written on research that had been done on low-level laser therapy in Europe, how treating a scar over and over and over again for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, 3 or 4 times a week over a period of 6 months might help the body to heal a scar that had been there for 20 years and would not otherwise have ever healed. But predominantly, he said, for injuries, it reduces inflammation. It very often will immediately, and those doctors that came in had this done, it will very often immediately reduce the pain so much that the person has a lot more range of motion in that area. And it doesn't go away the next day, and the pain doesn't all come back. You treat it a number of times, and you can help the body heal. So he showed me some of the books that are written on it. He went over some more information. He answered a bunch of questions for me. And I spent $4,000 and bought one of the lasers. Actually, I think when they first came out, they were $3,200. So I bought one. And then later he improved them. He changed the housing. He was originally using a housing that he purchased from Black & Decker Corporation, and he put his electronics and laser diodes into it. And then later, after he'd been in business long enough, he went ahead and had a housing made for his own, and that's the housing that I just showed a few minutes ago in the Q1000 that I've got. What else? Oh, and he also came out with some accessories. If you take a look at the side here, there's a little jack that you can plug things into, and it has, if you buy them, the Q1000, when it was available, it's no longer on the market. You could buy 2 dental probes, the 660 and the 808 probe, and you would plug them into that unit, and it would simply use that unit as its power supply. The main head would not come on, and then the dental probe could be used to treat different things in teeth. And I have personally saved a couple of teeth where people came in and they said their dentist said the tooth is dying and we should kill it the rest of the way. I don't think the dentist used that terminology, and do a root canal. And instead I was able, with some supplements and massaging some herbs into the area and treating the tooth with either one or both of the extra lasers, the 660 or the 808, maybe 2 or 3 times a week for a couple of weeks, we regenerated the nerve tissue and we saved the tooth. And you can't always do that, but I found that it worked about 50% of the time, which was great. So I've used those for many, many years. I had all sorts of different conditions in my office. I had one woman who had hurt her shoulder. I don't remember whether she was lifting something, whether she was skiing. I don't remember what it was. But she was all set to go in for surgery. And she called me up and she said, look, David, I know you've got some herbs and minerals and different supplements that if I take them will probably greatly increase how quickly I will heal after they do surgery on my shoulder. And I said, what else has been done? Well, I did 6 weeks, I think it was, of physical therapy. There was no improvement at all. And the doctor said, well, we tried. It's always worthwhile. We're going to have to go in there surgically and clean out the joint. So I said, well, you know, come over to my office and let me do some things first. So she comes over, and back then I was using the Q1000, and I went ahead and treated it in 4 positions around the shoulder capsule. So in other words, I went in this way. In other words, I put the Q1000 on this side, then I put it on the top, then I put it on the back pointing forward, and then I put it underneath in the armpit pointing up. So in other words, 4 different positions going around the shoulder joint. And it's about a 3.5 or a 3-minute cycle, and then it would beep and go off. And I'd put it in the next position, turn it on for another 3 or 3.5 minutes, it would beep and go off, etc. And I went all around the capsule. And I said, now that I'm done, take your hand out of the sling. She came in with it in a sling. And let me know whether you notice any improvement at all, because if you don't notice any improvement at all, it may not help you. It won't hurt you, but it may not help you. And she took her arm out of the sling, and she started moving her arm. And she gets this real strange expression on her face because prior to that, any movement hurt. And she starts moving her arm around and she goes, oh my, it doesn't start to hurt until I get up to here. And I said, that's great. That means you're one of the people that for whatever it's able to do in there is most likely going to be able to heal the area and you won't need the surgery. Call up and cancel the surgery and come in and let me treat your arm with the laser, let's say every other day for a couple of weeks, and let's see what happens. And she said, David, the surgery is scheduled for 3 days from now. I said, I understand that. Call them up and cancel it. She said, what am I going to tell them? And I said, I don't really care what you tell them. I mean, tell them that you need to cancel the surgery for whatever reason. Well, but they're going to ask me reasons. I said, look, if you feel that you need to lie, and I'm not asking you to lie, but if you feel you need to lie because it makes you more comfortable and you want to say, a friend of mine is getting married or somebody just got hurt and I have to fly back to see them and I can't be here that date, if that makes you more comfortable as opposed to just saying, I want to cancel it, do whatever you need to do. They'll be happy to reschedule the surgery if what we're doing doesn't work. And so I don't know what she actually said. She canceled the surgery. We treated the area. If I remember correctly, this was a number of years ago. I think twice or 3 times a week, maybe every other day for 3 weeks. Totally healed it. Never needed the surgery. Scan said everything was beautiful and the surgery was not needed because the soft tissue laser did it. And I know this is a little bit of a long story, but I want to tell the entire story. And the reason, let me give you a little a little carrot here, is because the one that I now currently use is on a massive discount because they're trying to close them out before they make a couple of minor modifications and come up with another one sometime in 2020. And they're selling them for way below wholesale. I'll get to that. I want to give you more information first. Sorry, but that's the way I do things. People know I'm a wordy person. I like to give lots of information. So I went to a conference in Los Angeles maybe, I don't know, 6 years ago. I really don't remember. It could be more than that. Could be 12 years ago. And one of the acupuncturists that asked me to come up there and to present and give a lecture and also be on a little panel said, when you're here, you've got to go to this booth from this company called Medlight and talk to the owner, and I'll see if I can get him to give you one because his unit does as well as your Q1000, even though it costs 1/10 as much. Okay, I was interested. So I went down to the exhibit hall when I got to this particular conference, and I think it was in Los Angeles, and there were a whole big bunch of boxes, and that's the box. It says Medlight 630 Pro. Not sure if I got it. Yeah, I think I can see it real well. And there were a whole bunch of these boxes, and sitting on the table were a bunch of these devices. This is the Medlight 630 Pro. And they were all plugged in and turned on and sending a whole bunch of red light up into the ceiling, and when it would cycle off, he'd press them, have them again, because that brought people to the booth, because all these red lights were on. And I went over to him, and I said, so this is the Medlight that acupuncturist is telling me about. And he looks down at my name tag and sees David Getoff, and he said, oh, I'm supposed to give you one of these, and he hands me the box. You know, so he just says, here, this is yours. And I said, you're giving it to me. You're selling them here for $350. I see your for sale sign. Regular $400, sale price $350. He said, I was told I have to give you one of these, that you need to try it in your office and compare it to a much more expensive one you're using. So yes, this is a gift. So he gives me the Medlight, and I have a long discussion with him. And he said it's a higher output LED than most of the laser diodes. And of course, I could see that. I could see very clearly that the strength of the red light coming out was quite a bit more than my Q1000 was putting out. He said it does the same thing. It costs way less. If somebody says, wow, could I buy one from you because my daughter is on the dance team and gets hurt a lot, and one of my sons is on the soccer team and one is on the football team and they get hurt a lot, and if I treat them with this, if I use the red light on them, will that, in most cases, speed up how fast they heal and maybe reduce their pain and reduce the inflammation? And I was never able to sell them a Q1000 for $4,000. They wouldn't want it. He said, now you'll have something that's inexpensive enough that somebody might buy them from you. So I said, thank you very much. And I brought it back to my office. And I moved the Q1000 into my second office and started treating every condition that I knew had a good chance of being benefited by the red light with the Medlight 630 Pro instead. And I got the exact same results. Absolutely exact same results. I couldn't tell any difference. I mean, maybe they were a little better because it was stronger. I don't know. Because it's brighter, it goes through more tissue. I have no idea. All I know is I got the exact same results. I didn't notice anything that wasn't as good as my expensive $4,000 unit. And so I called him up and I started carrying the Medlights. And he said they retail for $400. He said you can sell them for $350. We don't like the price to go too low. So I started selling them. And I sold, many cases of them. A case had 20. I must have sold 60, 80, 100 of the Medlights to people after I treated something on their body with it. And if they noticed a big difference, everybody doesn't. If they noticed a big difference, they went, wow, would this help my spouse's arthritis? Like I said, would this help my kids when they hurt themselves? And I said, it's not going to hurt them. It will very possibly speed up the healing quite a bit. So I started selling quite a few of them. I love the device. I am very happy with it. It's very simple. Plugs into the wall. Let's see. So this is the transformer, and we're going to plug that in there. And in the end of the Medlight is a little jack, and so we'll plug that in there. And then I'll walk over to my wall here. And plug it into the wall. So now, if I press the start button on here, okay, there's a start button and a stop button. It's a pretty firm pressure. You really have to push on it. But if I press on that start button real hard, the Medlight comes on. And it's very bright, much brighter than the other unit. And if I was going to be treating something, so let's say I hurt my wrist, I would put it right on my wrist, right on the skin, and leave it there, and it will beep in 4 minutes and turn itself off. And then what I would normally do, if it was me treating myself or somebody else, I would then treat from the other hand, the other side going in. So we go through both sides because there's bone in the way. We want to get everywhere. As I said, if it was a shoulder, okay, let's turn over to the other camera. If it was a shoulder, I would go coming in this way and going down from the top and coming in from the back and going underneath. It has a fan in it. So this area here is a fan. That just keeps the very slight heat, you can barely feel it, from all the LEDs from overheating and having it turn off its temperature sensor switch. Of course, if you want it off in less than 4 minutes, you press the off button, which is, again, quite firm. You have to press it. And like I said, I've sold many of these. I have lots of people that use them. They just sit there until somebody has a problem. But what happened all of a sudden is that Medical Devices Incorporated decided that they wanted to make a couple of minor modifications. And so sometime in 2020 or 2021, depending on when he gets everything done, instead of having it plug into the wall, like this one does, he wants to make it battery operated. I don't want it battery operated. I don't like battery operated. I don't like things where I have to worry about the battery having a full charge, about the battery going dead, and can I get inside and replace it, how much are the batteries. I like the ones that plug into the wall and don't have to worry about it. And this actually comes with, in the box, it also comes with a 12-volt car adapter. So you can plug it in, instead of plugging into the wall, you plug it into the cigarette lighter accessory place in your car to be able to use it, if you're in a car or a motorhome. So again, I love them. And what he decided to do is he didn't want to come out with this new unit, whether it's a year from now or 2 years from now. He didn't want to come out with it until he got rid of most of the ones he had left of the other. And since these are made in the United States, with a 1-year warranty, and he's very good about that, although I've almost never had a problem, and I've sold many, he wanted to see if he could get his stock of the original ones a lot lower. And he told me he had about 15,000 left. His original run was 190,000 units. He did that to be able to keep the price down because he wanted to be able to sell them for under $400 when the lasers were going for $4,000 and $5,000 and $6,000. So he now has a special. Unbelievable special. I mean, astronomically unbelievable. They changed their website from medical devices to the name of the unit. So the website is now Medlight, M-E-D, Med, L-I-G-H-T, Light, Medlight 630 P-R-O, Medlight630pro.com. And you can now buy them directly from him for below wholesale. He's changed the price a couple times over the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure if it's changed again. But it was $174.95 for the Medlight, which I've sold many of at $350. And I said, that's terrific. I said, I'd like to tell a bunch of people about it. He said, well, if you're going to tell a bunch of people about it, he said, I'll tell you what, I'll give your people a deal. Oh, they're not my people. He said, it doesn't matter. He said, I'll give them a special deal. He said, we'll give you a discount code. So when they go to my website at medlight630pro.com and click on buy now or put it in the cart or whatever it is, and then it comes up on the next page, there'll be a place that says either code or coupon code or discount code. And if they put in your last name, Getoff, G-E-T-O-F-F, and the year, which is 2019. So Getoff 2019, Getoff 2019, it'll drop it down another $20 or $30. I go, wow, that's nice. So that's what they've done. And I just want everybody to know about this because you've got an opportunity. When they run out, I'll take this video off my website. You've got an opportunity to buy these things at way below wholesale. It's not going to go bad on you. It can sit there until you need it. I announced this information that I'm giving you, although I made it real quick. I did about like a 5-minute announcement at the International and American Association of Clinical Nutritionists Conference about 2 weeks ago. And the president allowed me to get up to the microphone and just talk about this because I was just giving everybody a great deal from the manufacturer, not from me. And that day, that Saturday or Sunday, when I called when I got back to my office, talked to the owner. He said, yeah, you must have been talking somewhere. He said, we sold 21 Medlights in a couple hours. I said, good. I'm glad they got the deal. He said, a couple of people bought 2 or 3 of them. I said, actually, I know those people because they came up to me afterwards and they said, I got online and bought 2 or I got online and bought 3. One of them has known me for years and said, if you like it, I know it's good and I want one in each of my offices. And the other one said, I want one in my office and I want one to be able to rent to my patients. So maybe for $50 a week, they can take it home if they've got to treat the area. So I'm just conveying this all to you because I love the unit. I'm very happy with the man who owns the company and their service. When we were at that conference, he invited me up to be on a panel where people were asking him questions and his scientists. He had a laser scientist up there about these things in general and what they do. But if anybody asked a question having to do with clinical about using it, he said, I'm not a clinician, I'm a manufacturer. He's a research scientist. Mr. Getoff is a naturopath. We'll have him answer that. And so I answered a bunch of questions. But the price is so unbelievable that I just want to let people know about it. You know, I've been selling them in my office, like I said, for $350 for many, many years. And you can now get it not for $174.95, but for $25 or $30 below that by putting in the discount code. And all I can say is it's a phenomenal deal on a phenomenal product. And I'm doing this to support the company because they've supported me. I mean, anytime I had an issue, they would fix it, which was almost never. So I love the unit. I love the technology. I love what it's doing. And I love being able to tell whoever's listening to this and whoever you send to listen to this that until he runs out, it's a phenomenal, phenomenal deal. It also puts out a much higher amount of the a red light in the correct spectrum. I think it's right around 635 nanometers. A lot more than most of the other units on the market. It's got many more high-level LEDs in that little head. Let's see, we can show that here. Get the light right. So you can see there's dozens and dozens and dozens of LEDs in there. And there are a lot of units on the market that in this tiny little amount of, it's about 2 inches of space, might have 10 LEDs, when this has, I don't even know how many, 60? So you have much, much more of the light. For example, there are units out there that are way more expensive, that in the amount of the head, the amount of their total head, put out, let's say, 60 or 70 milliwatts of light at that frequency. This puts out 1,000. This puts out, I think, 50 milliwatts per square centimeter, if I remember him correctly. All I know is I love them. Every single time I use them, I don't always get a result, but most of the times I do. I had somebody in my office today who came in and said, by the way, that light, and they pointed up to the box that I have on display, the Medlight box, that light that you used on me 2 weeks ago when I was here, the pain's still gone. It had been there for 6 months. You know, the doctor looked at it and said, well, hopefully it'll go away. You hurt yourself. You made it go away in 4 minutes. It's still gone. So I love the lights. I love being able to give people a great deal directly through the manufacturer. And again, the website is www, etc., Medlight, MEDLIGHT 630 Pro, as it says up on top of this box, Medlight 630 Pro.com, but without any spaces. And then just, put one into your shopping cart or hit buy now or whatever he has up there. And once you have a place that has a coupon code, type in GETOFF, get off, my last name, 2019, get off 2019, and it drops the price down. And I don't know what it's dropping it down to now. At the beginning, it was dropping it down $25. Somebody told me when they put it in, it dropped it down more than that. Fantastic deal, fantastic product. I feel very good that I can give you this information. And I'm sorry if you're one of those people that has a hard time listening to something that's more than 2 minutes, because I've gone way over 2 minutes. Thank you for listening. And if you buy one and you use it over the next 6 months and get a whole bunch of amazing benefits from it, email me. Let me know. Yeah, you'll get an automatic response from my email saying, I almost never look at this. Don't hold your breath. But I would love to hear from you and know that I've helped somebody. So thank you, and I hope you'll be thanking me. Have a good one.